After endless hours, days, or even weeks of finalizing product research and concluding supplier negotiations, you come to a crossroad. This is the logistics crossroad. Air freight, air express, sea freight, what are all these options? How will they get past the supplier's location to the final destination? How will customs get cleared? These are the day-to-day questions a freight forwarder will answer. Perhaps it's why you are here, and we will lay out the import process with a freight forwarder in this step-by-step video. Step 1. Draw out the shipping terms with your supplier. Negotiate a trade term. As a freight forwarder, we always ask clients what trade term was negotiated with the supplier. This serves as a starting point to know if the client requires a freight forwarder or if the shipping services are being covered by the supplier. If the trade term is EXW or Ex Works, the seller is responsible to make the freight available at their warehouse and the buyer is responsible to arrange the freight pickup from that point and make sure to deliver it to the final destination. As opposed to DDP or delivery duty paid, the seller covers the entire transportation process to the buyer's final destination, including customs clearance. B. Choose a shipping method. In common, you have two general methods of international freight transportation: movement by sea and movement by air. Roughly 90% of all world trade still travels by ship. As a result, sea shipping is usually the most affordable way to transport goods. A rule of thumb: for shipping, if you have a shipment that is less than 1 cubic meter or 250 kgs, it is best to ship via air express or courier services like UPS, DHL, or FedEx. Your supplier may have good rates through these courier methods, or you can check with your local courier. We recommend air freight only if you are in a rush to ship your goods, because air freight costs can run up to 2 to 5 times the cost of sea shipping, depending on the time of year. A freight forwarder is recommended for shipments over 1 cbm or 250 kgs, as you will see discounted pricing starting at these volumes. C. Identify the shipping type. How will the cargo be shipped? Depending on the volume and weight, you may identify if you will be using FCL, full container load, or LCL, less than container load. Other members of the family include RORO, roll-on, roll-off, LOLO, load-on, load-off. These shipping types usually apply to sea shipping. Rule of thumb number 2. If you are shipping less than 17 to 18 cbm, then it is recommended to ship LCL method. However, we recommend you to compare FCL and LCL freight costs at these high volumes to see what option works best logically and financially. Air express and air freight goods are usually shipped as bulk goods since they are non-containerized. Step 2. Working with a freight forwarder. In this step, we will explain the process of working with a freight forwarder, what they do, and general requirements to get a shipping quote. After you finalize an order with your supplier, your next step will be to transport the goods. Handling freight between several locations requires handling and connections in the supply chain. This is when you can get advice from a freight forwarder. In simple terms, a freight forwarder is an authorized agent responsible for the movement of freight or goods on behalf of the cargo owner. You are probably wondering, how do I find a freight forwarding company? Thanks to the modern yellow pages, search engines, and social media platforms are new ways to find specific services and furthermore information about a company. As mentioned, the agent must be authorized and licensed. You can also check for credentials by taking an extra step and verifying if the company is OTI licensed using the FMC's website. Okay, so you found a few freight forwarders, and your next step is to contact them. Regardless of your contact method, we recommend having 2 checklists. Checklist 1 will cover the general shipping information required for a quote. Most of these requirements are the result of Step 1, which we discussed earlier. Trade term, shipping method, shipping type, cargo details such as volume and CBM, weight in kgs, total cartons, and product description, origin of the goods, origin port, and final destination. Checklist 2 will cover a freight forwarder's characteristics: credentials, customer service, mutual understanding, and price. Now that you have set some boxes, let's get them checked off. Make sure to have all of the information from checklist 1 handy if your shipment is ready. This will allow the freight forwarder to process your quote in a timely manner and avoid back and forth emails, phone calls to verify shipping details. After you have contacted the company, you may be interested in getting shipping quotes. This part is usually done by email exchange or through an online method if available. Once provided all cargo details, a quote will be prepared within 24 to 48 hours or sooner and will typically have a validation period. Ocean shipping rates are updated every 2 weeks, whereas air shipping rates are updated every Monday. When the market is really high, rates are updated consecutively. Now, you have the rates, you established a connection, and now you can use Checklist 2 to identify what freight forwarder is the right fit. Importer tip: ask the freight forwarder to include import duties and tax fees in the quote. This overall shipping estimate can be used to help get an idea of your landed costs. Step 3. Importer documents. In this step, we will cover a key freight forwarder characteristic: mutual understanding. A freight forwarder will be your logistics consultant, and more. You provide insight of your cargo information, and we will use our knowledge and network to perform catered services. Freight forwarders and importers work alongside in this step to know what is required in order to expect a successful import process. Depending on the type of product or products that you are importing, you may need additional paperwork at origin and/or destination. These types of requirements are usually assessed in Step 2. After you accept the quote and a mutual understanding is accomplished, your freight forwarder will contact your supplier to arrange the shipment and request a set of documents from you. Key documents for the import process include power of attorney or POA to authorize the freight forwarder or its agents to arrange customs clearance on your behalf, commercial invoice which includes cargo details and manufacturing costs per unit, packing list which includes descriptive cargo details such as weight, volume, color, size. House bill of lading document is generated by the freight forwarder on receipt of the goods from the supplier. This bill acknowledges that the goods in receipt are to be shipped and delivered at destination. The bill of lading is issued by the supplier shipper to the buyer consignee. Think the import stages are like international travel. You book a flight. Cargo booking information should be made available within 24 to 72 hours of approving a quote. Depending on the space availability or vessel frequency, some bookings may take longer to confirm. Process flight pre-departure formalities and take flight. Similarly, your freight forwarder will arrange any pre-shipping requirements and also provide transit updates throughout the shipment's course. Like a boarding pass, your freight forwarder will issue an arrival notice that will contain the exact voyage or flight details and shipping timeframes. Arrival at destination and customs check-in. Once the goods reach the port of destination, it is time to arrange customs clearance. In this step, customs is notified of the shipping contents through the key documents we discussed earlier. Customs will determine if the cargo is cleared for entry or denied. Arrange transportation to the final destination. After entry, it is normal to head towards baggage claim and wait for the luggage to start cascading. You find your belongings, book an Uber or head out with your pre-arranged method of transportation. In comparison, there is a waiting period for the cargo to become available at the seaport, airport terminal, or container freight station. This process may take a few days, or even weeks based on how busy these sites get. When the cargo becomes available, the forwarder will set a date and time with the receiving party and arrange the transportation of the freight to the final destination. Importer tip: always add days to your expected cargo arrival date and book in advance. If there is a delay in transit, a huge market haul, or space issues, do not blame your freight forwarder. Just be patient with your forwarder when there is a delay in transit or sudden spike in freight costs. Make sure to book production with your supplier and vessel or airspace with your freight forwarder ahead of time. Keep in mind that these issues usually get heavy during the fourth quarter, Chinese New Year, major holidays, and prime dates. We hope